don't have a perfect life, but I have a beautiful life. I'm not immune to the struggles, and I can stand before you today and say that there have been both valleys and there have been mountaintop experiences. And if I were able to pull the room with those of you present watching this video right now, you would likely all say the same thing. Life is full of ups and downs. Some of my primary gifts include leadership, encouragement, speaking and teaching, and positivity. And I tell you that not to boast, but as a way of modeling for you that we can indeed have a measure of clarity about who we are and how we fit into the body of Christ. And this is what it says in Ephesians 4, verse 16. It says this: He makes the whole body fit together perfectly. As each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow. You see, you doing your own special work in some mysterious, God-ordained way, it helps me to grow. It helps the sisterhood to grow. It helps the body to grow, so that, this is what the word says, so that the whole body is healthy and growing and full of love. That's an amazing truth for us. You see, there's something in you that makes you unique. How well do you know that? What makes you unique? How well do you know that? I want to spend a bit of time reflecting with you from Psalm 139. It's a Psalm of David, and it starts in verse 1. You have searched me, O Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You perceive my thoughts from afar, and you discern my going out and my laying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Hear that. God is familiar with all your ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Asked David. Where can I flee from your presence? And here's the truth, sisterhood. There isn't anywhere that you can go, that you can flee from the presence of God. If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you, and the night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you knit me together. You created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So let me start with this. Why does clarity matter? Why do we need it? Well, let me ask you this question. What's it like looking through a muddy or foggy windshield? It's blurry, right? It can impede our vision and our view of where we need to go. In fact, just the other day, my van was so dirty that I literally had to go to the car wash, take it through the car wash, because I couldn't see out the side windows, and therefore I couldn't see where I was properly turning or if anyone was in the lane beside me. We need that clarity. What you know to be truth or feel confident about determines your steps. Even if you feel fear or anxiety or you're a bit nervous to move forward, when it's anchored in the sense of I know that I'm supposed to do this, you will step out and go in that direction. Because what you think to be true determines the direction of your feet. If I'm foggy about who I am or unclear, I may say yes to things that are actually a terrible fit for my gifts and abilities that God has entrusted to me. Or I may say no to things that are actually good things where I could thrive and where the deposits of gifts within me could shine and be utilized in that context. I would, however, be drawn to roles that allow me to engage and influence people, that have a propensity to take risks, that are fast-paced, that are changing, that allow me to either make important decisions or heavily influence important decisions. I take on roles that allow me to challenge the status quo, that give me freedom to plan my own schedule. You know, we have different rhythms, each of us, and sometimes the best of my work comes late in the day or in the early morning. It doesn't come at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. for me. So I need a flexible schedule. And I want to be in a role where I can see tangible outcomes, celebrate wins, and fail forward from mistakes. If you were to think back on some of your yeses recently, were they a yes because you had clarity that it would be a really good fit for you? Or do you kind of look back and go, oh, shoot, wish I hadn't have said yes to that? Clarity matters. It matters for our yeses and nos. And clarity matters because it influences our strength and our confidence in our future and what we have to offer when we show up in life. Marcus Buckingham, he rightly says that when you're flowing in your strengths, you feel energized. When you're not flowing in your strengths, your energy dwindles and you will not be able to sustain long-term productivity. And this will often lead us to high levels of dissatisfaction in our life. And one of the markers, this is important for you to know, sisters, one of the markers is when you're not flowing in your strengths, you actually want to avoid what you're doing. And so you put it off, you'll procrastinate. Another reason that clarity is important for us is we are called to steward the gifts that God has placed within us, right? We're told to live a life worthy of the call. You see, God's gifts and abilities are content, if you will. They're divine content, and it's been deposited into our life to steward. It's our mandate from the Lord to be fruitful and to make his name known, using our gifts and abilities for the advancement of his kingdom. Regardless of what gift we have, use the gift you have. It doesn't matter what anyone else has. What matters is for you to have clarity about you. And hear me, sisterhood, God is going to ask us what we did with the deposit. So let's be wise and mine for that clarity. So think a minute about what directions your choices are currently taking you in. Are you stewarding the gifts? Do you know which way your feet are going and why they're going there? You know, the farther away you are from the sources of clarity and truth, the less clarity and truth you will have. That statement came to me on one of my Saturday mornings when I was writing. And in fact, I was preparing for this talk. You see, one of my passions is to talk about the how of achieving things. How do we get there? You see, too often in my life, I went to conferences and I left with this amazing amount of information, but also with this lingering question of, but how do I do that? How do I get from here to there? And I can't tell you how many times I felt frustrated because I felt ill-equipped to take the next steps in my life. So let me offer you some suggestions. They're going to be expanding on the bullet points that you actually have in your participants guide before you. So here are some how pieces for you. Lean into your journey with great intentionality. You see, too often we do not give ourselves permission to discover who we are. And I'm not sure if it comes from an underlying fear or a sense of shame or what it is, but we were meant to know the handiwork of God. Remember where I started in Psalm 139, where we find David stating, I know God's handiwork full well. And I challenged us at the beginning with the question, how well do we actually know? Give yourself permission to know. Get curious. Give yourself permission to go there, recognizing that it's your God-given responsibility to do so. Not only that, I actually really think that God invites us to know ourselves in Him. And really, how could we honestly steward a life and gifts that we know nothing about? Questions are for me undoubtedly a means by which I seek to gain clarity. Here are some reflection questions for you to consider using in your journey. Why did God create me? What is the Spirit and the Scriptures telling me about myself? What causes, interests, or activities inspire me? When your week is done, and it's your Friday, so whenever that is for you, what do you sit around and talk about? What are the things you feel most proud about, most productive in, the most joy around? What do I believe about myself? What do I know for sure? Am I trying to live someone else's life? If I could design, I love this question. If I could design a perfect day for myself, what would it look like? What would it be full of? How would I structure that time? Who might be there? Where might I find myself? What are my values? What invitations are coming my way that cause my excitement or interest barometer to move up? What would I like to do more of in my life? Maybe less of? What are some of my aspirations? And yes, we need to test these, but it's not a sin to have them. Where do my thoughts take me? What activities do I do that when I do them, wow, I can easily lose track of time? Maybe you need to spend some time asking yourself, are there certain things that I'm avoiding? If you're leading a team or you're a direct support on a team like I am, ask your team, what do you see the best gifts that I bring to our team? Because I'm on a journey to better understand myself. You know, you invite them into that journey. When someone gives you a compliment about something you said or did, invite them into your learning journey by saying something along these lines. I'm on a learning journey to better understand myself. Could you tell me, from our experience and our time together, what one strength you saw and how you saw it demonstrated? There's a test called the DISC profile. It's a great test for you to understand your pace and style of work. If you tailor it to the workplace, and you can do that, it will tell you how you need to interact with other styles in the workplace. You see, because in order to be effective in our life, it's important to know that the rest of the world is not necessarily wired the same way we are. They don't look through the same lens, right? They have different gifts than you have. So, because that's true, it's important that we become not only aware of ourselves, but when we're in the workplace, we need to become aware of the others around us. So DISC profile is one of those things that can help us do that. Another test that is really a good resource is to do a spiritual gift testing. Many of these can be found online. Some are for free, some are paid. I've included some in your resource list for you to consider. And it's important for us to do these because we know in the scriptures, Paul refers to several types of gifts. So figure out what it is for you and what you need to know in that area. Paul reminds us in Corinthians, right, that we're not to be ignorant of the gifts, but we're to steward them. Another great resource that is very affordable is the Strength Finders resource. So Strength Finders has a list of 34 potential strengths. You can learn about them in the links that I provided in the resource section. But after taking the assessment, you'll get to see and learn about your top 5. And they'll give you more information, more in-depth information that you can use as you lead forward in your life. Now, there are also emotional intelligence tests, Berkman tests, Myers-Briggs, to name a few. All at their core are trying to help you get some form of clarity in your life about you. Now listen, here are the benefits of doing those tests. You're going to have focused energy. You're going to become more intentional in living. You're going to be more intentional with your yeses and your nos. You're going to be more intentional about those you choose to surround yourself with. You might even become more intentional in what you choose to prune out of your life. Now, let me just briefly talk about what it means, this idea of death to self in Scripture. Now, I don't know about you, but there have been a few times in my leadership journey where I've expressed a need, or I've thought something and someone just said to me, look, you just need to die to self. Have you ever been told that you just need to die to self? How many of you, if we were to be really honest in the room today, that when that was said to you, felt uncomfortable with that suggestion because it meant that what was really being asked of you was you need to die to something that was a felt need in your life, or actually was a true reflection of who you are. You see, the scriptures talk about death to self, but what it's talking about it's talking about things that are ungodly, that are selfish, things that aren't in alignment with God's will and His plans and His perfectly good plan for our life. It's not, however, talking about dying to the things that are actually needed in our life and that are important for us as human beings. So there are 3 things needed to push through that idea that we are to die to self, especially when they're things that are important to who God made us to be, and they're a felt need for us as we move forward in leadership. We need courage. Get the clarity you need and be able to publish your needs in the right places and the right ways. Challenge yourself to live a life of reflection. Equip yourself to have crucial conversations. Have a high level of commitment. By this, I mean that you need to commit to yourself and to God that you will take very seriously this gift of life that you've been given. You will commit to leading yourself well. Look, no one is going to take your journey, as seriously as you're going to need to take it. I know I can't see the faces of each one of you in the room watching this video today, but I want you to know that even before I came here and prepared to film this, that I was praying for you. I prayed for you that God would touch you, that God would give you the clarity, that there would be something in this moment, in this day, in these teachings that you're hearing today that spark a life and a passion in you to get that clarity that you need. Because you see, you were meant to shine. And your story is unique to you. It's your story. I think we could also rightly say that you have unique deposits of God in your life. And if you get that clarity of what those deposits are, it enables you to better and more fruitfully partner with God. You see, you, my friend, you were designed for your story and the beautiful masterpiece it can be, especially when we have the clarity we need. Let me close with this quote by Chris Valaton. He says this: refuse to be reduced by your fears, restricted by your past, or derailed by your critics or your worst day. Instead, live as a believer who rises to the high call of God in Jesus Christ and thus becomes fully actualized in your personhood.